Hi everyone, Aaron here, and welcome back. So I uploaded a video yesterday evening discussing the importance of working to change the attitudes on the part of people in elected positions concerning Scientology. Trying to start changing perceptions about Scientology being an organization that politicians should be afraid to take on. Doing things that demonstrate that although Scientology has a lot of money on hand, they hire high-powered lawyers and lobbyists, that at the end of the day, they really are more of a failing, desperate, ineffective organization than they are a force to be reckoned with. I guess another way you could put it is their bark is worse than their bite. I mean, just as an example, Scientology has a reputation for being a very litigious organization. And yet you'd probably be surprised to hear that they haven't actually sued a media company or a media organization in decades. And not only that, other than the Debbie Cook lawsuit in 2012, they haven't even sued an individual in decades either. And the Debbie Cook lawsuit turned out to be just a total disaster for Scientology. Debbie's testimony against David Miscavige was just utterly devastating. After 2 or 3 days of that testimony, the church completely crumbled, bent the knee, begged Debbie to please stop talking and go away, and had their lawyers, do a settlement with Debbie. And the point there really just being that even the last time Scientology tried to sue somebody, it totally flew back and hit him in the face, and they haven't so much as tried to sue a fly since then. And yet Scientology still has this reputation of suing the hell out of people. And believe me, they love the fact that they have that reputation. They use it to their advantage. They use it to intimidate people into silence. This reputation that they still benefit from has allowed them over just the last 2 or 3 years to cancel or get canceled or prevent from airing a few programs about Scientology, or at the very least, a few episodes of programs, strictly due to fear on behalf of corporate lawyers about legal fallout from the church. So that stuff, that reputation that exists, and believe me, this reputation exists because of stuff, legitimate, scary, intimidating, threatening stuff that Scientology was able to get away with decades ago. But the thing is, they just can't get away with that kind of stuff anymore. There's too many people paying attention. There's too much information out there about Scientology for them to be able to get away with the same stuff. There's too many former Scientologists willing to shine a light on it. And for the most part, the media is chomping at the bit to report about such things. So all of that being said, the video I posted yesterday discussed the importance of continuously trying to change the attitudes on behalf of lawmakers, legislators, elected office holders, that they should hesitate in demanding that action be taken about the crimes committed in Scientology, or that they should hesitate in demanding that Scientology's tax-exempt status be reviewed and revoked. So with that goal in mind, I want to show you a highlight clip of City Council member Mark Bunker dunking on Scientology right in front of Scientology's Clearwater spokesperson and 2 of her protege minions. These 3 Scientology reps were actually some of the only people in the audience during the clips I'm about to show you. These clips are from just a couple weeks ago, by the way. The context here is that the Clearwater City Council was conducting a final round of interviews with the 4 finalists to be Clearwater's next city manager. And without any fear, Council member Mark Bunker has been doing things like what you're about to see regularly for the last 12 to 18 months that he's been in office, and there's just nothing Scientology can do about it. There haven't been any repercussions. His animals haven't gone missing or turned up dead. His apartment hasn't been burglarized. He hasn't been sued for discrimination, etc., etc., etc. Now, the highlights here are really Mark's questions. For the purposes of this video, the answers are not very important. I'm going to include the answers for those who are interested, but I'm also going to include the little chapter separator label things so that you can just skip ahead to the next question if you want to. So the first clip here, Mark asked this question of Mr. Milton Dahoney. Let's take a look.
Councilmember Bunker.
Mr. Dahoney, I'm very happy to see you here. We had a great discussion yesterday.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not often moderated, but one thing I'm passionate about is helping people who have been abused and defrauded by Scientology. And this is a relationship you're going to have to build with the Church of Scientology in order to move the downtown forward. I was very happy to speak with you on this issue yesterday, and I'd just like you to confirm that you are prepared to look at both sides of the issue and not walk into a meeting with David Miscavige without being informed, without having, for instance, the input of Mike Rinder, who was the third in command of Scientology and worked right alongside David Miscavige and would be a big asset to understand what the organization is looking for and how Miscavige, the sole person who can make decisions in Scientology, actually thinks.
Councilman, the best way that I can respond to your question, if you choose me, I'm coming from the outside. I don't really know anyone. So I'm going to do my homework regarding every engagement I'm going to have. I have to. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't get myself prepared. So I'm going to try to gather as much information as I can gather. If the leader of the church is willing to have a sitting with me, I would certainly welcome that. But, you know, I want to be clear now and later about, from the lane of the city manager, what I'm looking for. I'm looking for where our interests intersect. I'm looking for where there is common ground for us to be able to work collaboratively. If we have disagreements over business points, to me, that's never personal. And so I'm willing to speak with anyone that has information that may be helpful. But, you know, I need to be clear about this and transparent about this. From the city manager's lane, I can't have a philosophical position one way or the other about the church or anyone else. I've got to try to advance the interest of Clearwater, and if I had the opportunity to speak with the head of the Church of Scientology, he would be crystal clear for me. I'm interested in helping to advance Clearwater. Is there an opportunity for us to engage together to do that? It doesn't interfere with their structure or whatever it is, but to be blunt, you would be hiring me to be parochial for Clearwater. And that's what I would be trying to do. And so your point about people may be intimidated, I get that. I have faced that my whole life. And so let me address that for just a second. I'm a 6'2" former athlete who happens to be African American. And so my presence sometimes has been intimidating to people, but effectively I'm a gentle giant. I engage people. I want people to like coming to work. I put my family first. My only rule in any city that I worked for, and I had to deal with this only once, I will take any criticism that anyone has of my performance, but I will never let anyone bring up my wife and kids. That's different. That's off limits, intolerable, and you'll know it quickly. But other than that, I'm here to do business. I'm here to advance Clearwater, and I would hope that the church would give me a chance to see if that I'm a fair person, that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, I don't lie, and I have no ulterior motives.
Alrighty, next up here, Mark asks this question of Mr. Charles Duggan. Let's take a look.
Councilmember Bunker.
I had a great time chatting with you yesterday. We talked a little bit about Scientology. And when I do, I don't speak about the religious beliefs. I'm talking about the organization and its actions. So I may consider Scientology to be QAnon with an expensive price list, but I don't expect you to believe that. I may think it's equivalent to the Flat Earth Society if they charge you hundreds of thousands of dollars to train you ultimately not to walk off the side of the earth. But you're welcome to pay for those courses. I'm not trying to take anyone away from Scientology. And I understand that you're going to have to create a relationship with David Miscavige, the one person who can make any decisions in Scientology. And I want you to hear their side. When you ask Scientology, and we have Pat Harney, one of the PR representatives here today, if you say, what is Scientology? She'll likely say, read a book, and want you to pick up a copy of Dianetics. I have no problem with that. But there are other Pulitzer Prize winning books like Going Clear by Lawrence Wright that kind of show you a more complete picture. And I would just hope that as you sit down to establish a relationship like this, that you'll commit to looking at both sides and understanding the way the organization itself works, and be willing to meet with somebody like Mike Render, who used to be right up there in the command structure with David Miscavige, and can give you some helpful pointers on what Scientology is hoping to achieve and what they mean when they're talking to you. Would you commit to sitting down with Mike Render?
Certainly, really, regardless of the subject, if a city council member wanted me to meet with someone, then I would do that, of course. I would say I have a curious nature, and so I like to do my homework. I like to learn things. I studied physics in college because I wanted to know how the natural world worked. I then realized that I didn't know anything about business. And so I decided to get an MBA because I literally knew nothing about business. And so I learned about finance, economics, and management, and things like that. Throughout my career, I've pursued educational opportunities at the University of Virginia, at Harvard University. I have availed myself of being on task force for ICMA, leading up to being on the board of some pretty notable city manager organizations. And so that's never going to end for me. And one of the, I didn't get a minor because they wouldn't let me have a minor, but I took enough classes to have it in philosophy when I was studying my physics degree, which means I like to look at all sides of a story. And you'll hear from the staff, if I'm lucky enough to work here, that I'll sit in a room, I'll listen to everyone's stories, and we will play back and forth all sides of it so that we've explored a decision and that we know what the consequences are, because there's always something. We want to make sure we're not unaware of the unintended consequences. And so definitely I would do that.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Mr. John Jennings. Now for this one, Mark didn't actually ask Mr. Jennings to answer a question about Scientology. So I'm not going to include his answer to the question. But he did preface his question with a statement, and here was Mark's statement.
Councilmember Bunker.
Mr. Jennings, we had a wonderful, spirited conversation yesterday. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you, and you have put in a lot of effort researching Clearwater, and you did the most research on the background of Scientology as well, which is good. You said you watched Going Clear and Scientology in the aftermath and read some books. And, I really appreciate that, because you are going to have to develop a relationship with David Miscavige. I don't expect you to adopt my position, but I do appreciate that you're going to go in prepared with a better understanding. And I hope that you do take a chance to sit down with Mike Render and discuss what it is like actually working under Miscavige and at his side.
Okay, so Mr. Jennings, by the way, was the candidate that the city of Clearwater selected to be its next city manager. So congratulations to Mr. Jennings. Next up, we have Mark's question to Mr. Keith Moffett. Let's take a look.
Councilmember Bunker.
Dr. Moffett, we have a unique problem here in Clearwater that other cities don't have to face, and that's the presence of the Scientology organization. Now, there are other cities that have a Scientology org, but they're different from here. Scientology is shrinking, but one thing they have done is successfully convince their members to purchase and restore beautiful buildings around different cities in the world, but then those buildings pretty much remain empty. As Scientology shrinks, they're turning Clearwater into more of a stronghold. People in Clearwater tend to think that Scientology controls the city. but they don't. They charge you an enormous amount of money to learn how to control matter, energy, space, and time, but they couldn't stop me from being elected. And they couldn't stop me from sitting in a room with operating thetans. So we have to overcome the concerns that people have about Scientology's presence here. We spoke yesterday about this a little bit, and I know that you're going to have to create a relationship with David Miscavige and get to work with him. I want you going in, though, with some knowledge of both sides of the issue, because Scientology will tell you, read a book. Scientology's PR rep, Pat Harney, is here. And if you ask what is Scientology, the answer is read a book. Come on down to the org and read a book. But there are other important books to read that talk about a much fuller picture of Scientology, like Going Clear by Lawrence Wright, or any number of books that have been written by former members. And we have a former executive who lives in the area, who is the co-host with Leah Remini of Scientology: The Aftermath, and still does a podcast with her called Scientology Fair Game every week. His name is Mike Rinder. He was essentially the third in command of Scientology, worked closely with David Miscavige. I would urge you to sit down with him just to get some education before you meet Miscavige. I'm not asking you to adopt my views of Scientology. I want you to keep an open mind, but I'd like you to have an informed mind. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes, sir, it does. And I was very pleased at the end of the meeting on last night. 3 members of the Scientology community approached me and said they were very open to, if I was selected, to working with me and the community and the city. So I was very pleased to see that they participated last night, and they at least appeared to have that view of working together. Now, the short answer of your comments is, you pay me to work with everybody. Whether if I want to or not, you pay me to have an open mind and to keep a door open at the table. So that is any and every citizen. I do know that, I've been in this business a while, that we do have some citizens that stretch that, but at any time, I can't turn a citizen away. I can't say no to a citizen. I cannot take a citizen's phone call. I mean, that is what we are here for. So being that they are a member of this community and that they are invested in this community, it is my goal to continue to reach and work with any and everybody. So they will be a part of that working relationship.
And I'm happy to hear you say that. You need to work with them. You need to sit down and talk with them. I wouldn't expect anything otherwise, but I just want to know that that you understand there's a little bit more to the organization than what they will represent to you.
Understood.
All right, there you go. So look, these are just some small examples to illustrate what I believe is a reality. I simply want more people in elected positions or positions of power politically or bureaucratically to understand. Scientology no longer deserves your fear. They do deserve your contempt. Their behavior does deserve ridicule. They do deserve to lose their tax-exempt status. People do deserve to go to jail for the treatment of minors and covering up of sexual crimes. But what they don't deserve is fear. If you're in Scientology, yes, you should be afraid that they are going to destroy your family. But that's a different conversation. That's a different level of involvement. Legislators, policymakers do not have that kind of excuse for inaction. And that's a message I'm just going to be working on repeating as often as possible, in as many ways as possible, giving as many examples as possible whenever the opportunity arises. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you to those who watched until the very end. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye. I want to give a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Dream Realty. Oh wait, That's me! I've been a real estate investor for over 20 years. I bought my first investment property when I was 20 years old. For the last 15 years, I've been buying and selling my own properties all over Clearwater and Tampa Bay. If you're looking to buy a home or sell a home and you'd like to work with me, get in touch and I'll get it done for you. Thanks again to everyone who supports this channel, and thank you for watching.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right